Waitress made the billionaire's daughter laugh and left everyone in shock. Before we start, tell me in the comments from which city are you watching, and at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Laughter exploded in the middle of the cafe. Loud, crystal clear, impossible. 3 customers turned their heads at the same time. The barista dropped a paper cup, and the man standing at the door in an Armani suit, Jason Crawford, CEO of Crawford Industries, billionaire, single father, and known for never smiling in public, froze as if he had been hit by a taser. Because that laugh belonged to his daughter. And Mia hadn't laughed in 8 months. Let me go back about 15 minutes so you can understand how a waitress with a coffee-stained apron managed to do the impossible. Seattle was crying that Thursday afternoon. Rain hammered the windows of Bean and Soul Coffee, that cozy corner cafe that smelled like cinnamon and empty promises of productivity. You know, the kind of place where everyone pretends to be working, but is really just checking their ex's social media? Yeah, that one. Mia Crawford sat alone at the corner table. The one nobody picks unless they're hiding from something. Or someone. She was 8 years old, with brown hair tied in a crooked ponytail and a half-finished strawberry milkshake. Her blue eyes, identical to her father's, watched the cafe with an expression no child should have: exhaustion. The bodyguard, a guy named Marcus, who looked like he'd stepped out of a low-budget action movie, stood outside checking his phone. Probably watching a game. Mia was used to being watched, but she was also used to being ignored. She stirred the straw, making bubbles in the cup. No one noticed, until someone did. Brooke Anderson was cleaning the next table when she saw it. Not the girl. Every waitress sees bored kids 1,000 times a day. But she saw that. That small, sad look that screamed, "I'm here, but no one cares." And Brooke, who had the annoying habit of caring about things that weren't her problem, just couldn't walk away. She was 26, blonde hair always in a messy bun, freckles on her nose, and a smile that made even grumpy customers apologize for being rude. That day, she wore the cafe's dark green apron with her name stitched wrong. Brooke, without the E, because the embroiderer had apparently fallen asleep mid-task. She approached Mia's table, picked up a napkin, and pretended to wipe invisible crumbs. "Hi," she said softly, smiling. Mia looked up but didn't answer. Brooke waited, didn't push, just tilted her head slightly, as if saying, "No rush, I'm here." Then Mia raised her hands and began signing. "I can't talk." Most people would freeze. Get awkward, offer a polite smile, and hurry back to the kitchen. Not Brooke. Her smile grew wider as she replied in sign language, "That's fine, I talk too much anyway." Mia's eyes widened. Brooke continued, signing quickly and confidently. "Can I bring you something to make your days sweeter?" Mia blinked, then slowly signed, "You? No sign language?" Brooke nodded with an exaggerated motion. "I learned because my brother was deaf, and because I was terrible at staying quiet." Mia's lips twitched, that moment when you try not to laugh but can't help it. Brooke leaned closer and made the secret sign before signing. "Want to know something? That milkshake looks sad. It's begging for whipped cream." Mia looked at the cup, then at Brooke. And for the first time in months, she smiled, but not just any smile. The kind that lights up an entire room. Brooke raised her eyebrows and signed, "I knew it. I can always tell when a milkshake's having an existential crisis." Mia giggled quietly. Brooke gasped in mock shock and signed, "Was that a laugh? Wow. Guess I'm officially a milkshake comedian now." And that's when it happened. Mia couldn't hold it anymore. The laughter burst out, loud, free, real. She covered her mouth with both hands, eyes sparkling, and Brooke gave a dramatic bow as if she'd just won an Oscar. Jason Crawford pushed open the cafe door at that exact moment. He was there to pick up his daughter after a meeting that should have lasted an hour, but dragged into 3, as usual. His dark hair was perfect, his navy suit flawless, and he carried that air of a man who signs million-dollar contracts without blinking. But when he heard that laughter, he stopped. The world stopped. Because that sound, the one he thought he'd never hear again, was coming from the corner table. From his daughter. Jason turned his head slowly, as if afraid any sudden movement might break the spell, and then he saw. Mia was laughing. Not a polite little laugh, but a real one. The kind that makes your whole body shake. And right in front of her, crouched beside the table, was a blonde waitress waving her hands wildly, making signs he didn't understand. but that were clearly hilarious. Jason's chest tightened. He didn't know if he wanted to cry or run over there and ask, "How did you do that?" Because for the past 8 months since Mia's mother died in a car accident, he had tried everything. Therapists, specialists, expensive toys, trips, nothing worked. Mia had simply shut down. And now, a random waitress in some small cafe in Seattle had done what he couldn't. He took one step forward, then stopped. He didn't want to interrupt, didn't want to ruin it. So he just stood there. A 6-foot-tall man in an Italian suit, frozen in place, watching. Brooke finally noticed the man at the door, not because he said anything, but because the air changed. You know that feeling when you know someone's looking at you? Exactly that. She turned her head and met his eyes. Blue, intense, and completely vulnerable. For a second, Brooke forgot she was crouched on the floor of a coffee shop with a stained apron, forgot there was a line of orders waiting, forgot even her own name, because that man, whoever he was looking at her as if she had just performed a miracle. Mia followed Brooke's gaze and saw her father. Her smile faltered. It didn't disappear, but it lost some of its light. Jason swallowed hard and stepped closer. He took a breath and lifted his hands, trying to make signs. His fingers were stiff and awkward, like someone who had learned the basics from YouTube tutorials at 3 in the morning but never practiced. He signed slowly. "Mia, you ready for bathroom?" Silence. Mia's eyes widened. Brooke clapped a hand over her mouth but wasn't fast enough. A strangled laugh escaped. Jason frowned, confused. He looked at his hands, then at his daughter. "What? Did I say it wrong?" Mia looked at Brooke. Brooke looked at Mia, and both burst into laughter. The kind of laughter that hurts your stomach, that bends you in half. Mia shook so much she almost spilled her milkshake, and Brooke had to hold onto the table to stay upright. Jason turned red, from his neck to his hairline. I was trying to say go. Ready to go." Brooke wiped a tear from her eye and signed to Mia, still laughing. "Your dad just asked if you need the bathroom." Mia covered her face with both hands, shoulders shaking with laughter. She signed back, "I'm not 5 years old." Brooke nearly fell off her chair. She looked at Jason and translated, trying to keep her voice steady. She said she's not 5 years old. Jason covered his face with one hand, and for the first time in months, something that looked like a smile, embarrassed but genuine, appeared on his lips. Okay. What did I do wrong?" Brooke stood up, trying to look professional, and failing badly. She showed him what he'd done. "You did this," she said, repeating his wrong gesture and pointing downward, "which means bathroom. The right one is this," she corrected, showing the proper sign for go, pointing forward instead. Jason sighed deeply and looked at his daughter with a helpless expression. Mia signed to him, still smiling. "It's okay, Dad. I understood, but it was hilarious." Brooke crossed her arms, trying not to laugh again, and signed to Mia. "At least he tries. Most people don't even do that." Mia nodded, and something in the way she looked at her father changed. Like pride, mixed with secondhand embarrassment, but pride nonetheless. Jason took a breath and tried again, this time very carefully. "Let's go home?" He got it right. Mia nodded, but before standing up, she looked at Brooke with that expression that said, "You're not leaving, right?" Brooke smiled and signed, "We'll see each other again. Waitress promise, those are sacred." Mia smiled again, smaller this time, but real. Jason looked at Brooke. He didn't know whether to thank her or apologize for being the punchline, so he tried both. "Thank you, and sorry for the awkwardness." Brooke shrugged, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "Don't worry, I've seen worse. Last week, a guy ordered coffee without coffee. I'm still trying to understand that." Jason almost smiled. Almost. But there was something in his eyes, a mix of relief and gratitude, that said more than any words could. He placed a hand on Mia's shoulder and the two walked toward the door. But before leaving, Mia stopped and looked back. She lifted her hand and signed one last thing to Brooke. "Thanks for not laughing at my dad's face." Brooke blinked, surprised, then smiled and signed back. "Oh, I did laugh. I just waited for you to laugh first." Mia let out another little laugh and waved. Jason didn't understand what they said, but he saw his daughter's smile. And as he left the cafe with her, her small hand inside his, he looked back one last time. Brooke was behind the counter again, taking orders as if nothing had happened. But something had. Mia had laughed, for real. And Jason Crawford, The man who controlled empires, who never made impulsive decisions, who planned every move with surgical precision. He knew he would come back, even if it was just to learn the difference between go and bathroom. Jason Crawford didn't come back the next day. He came back 3 hours later, with a plan, a mental contract, and absolutely no idea how to start a conversation with a waitress who had just seen him confuse go with bathroom. The rain had stopped, but Seattle was still gray, like the whole city was living under an indie film filter. The Bean and Soul was busier now. College students pretending to study, freelancers pretending to work, and Jason Crawford pretending he was there for the coffee. He pushed the door open and scanned the room. There she was. Brooke was wiping a table near the window, her apron crooked and blonde hair slipping from her bun. She was laughing at something a customer said. The kind of easy laugh that makes you want to be part of the joke even if you don't know what it is. Jason straightened his tie, took a deep breath, and walked to the counter like he was about to close a $50 million deal. Brooke turned and almost dropped the tray when she saw him. Well, look who's back. She put a hand on her hip, amused. Let me guess. Here for your private sign language lesson? Jason opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I wanted to thank you for what you did today. You already did. I know, but it wasn't enough. Brooke tilted her head, curious. Okay. And what would be enough? Because if we're talking tips, I'm fine with large amounts. No complaints here. He almost smiled, almost. Actually, I came to make you an offer. An offer? Brooke raised an eyebrow. Like marriage? Because I usually expect at least one dinner first. Jason's face turned red. She burst out laughing. Relax. I'm kidding. You seem like the type who takes everything way too seriously. She crossed her arms and leaned on the counter. Go on. What's the offer? Jason cleared his throat, trying to regain composure. My daughter hasn't smiled in months, since her mother passed away. Brooke's smile faded. Not completely, but it softened. I'm sorry. Thank you. He looked away, as if admitting it cost him something. And today, for the first time, she laughed, because of you. Brooke didn't reply right away. She just waited. Jason went on, more confident now. I'd like to hire you, for a few days, to spend time with Mia, talk to her. Do what you did today. Silence. Brooke blinked. You want to hire me to be your daughter's friend? Technically, yes. She let out a disbelieving laugh. That's the strangest and sweetest thing I've ever heard, both at the same time. Jason frowned. It's a serious offer. I know, that's why it's strange. She bit her lip, thinking. Look, I'd love to spend time with Mia. She's amazing. But you know friendship doesn't work like that, right? You can't buy it. I'm not trying to buy it. I'm trying, he paused, searching for words, to give her something I can't. Brooke's expression changed, softer now, less playful. You're trying, I saw that. She knows it too, but it's not enough. It never is. Brooke sighed and looked out the window as if making an important decision. Okay, I'll do it, but on one condition. What condition? Don't treat me like an employee. I'll spend time with Mia because I want to, not because you're paying me. Jason hesitated. He wasn't used to people refusing money. All right, but at least let me cover the hours you miss here at the cafe. Brooke rolled her eyes. You're one of those people who needs a password to smile, aren't you? What do you mean? I mean, you never do anything spontaneous. Everything has to be planned, calculated, signed in triplicate. Jason opened his mouth to deny it, but couldn't. Because she was right. Brooke laughed again, but this time it was gentle. Relax. I'm not judging, just saying. She grabbed a pen and scribbled something on a napkin. Here. My number. Text me tomorrow and we'll set something up. Jason took the napkin as if it were an official document. Thank you. You're welcome. She was already turning to another customer when she looked back. Oh, and Jason? He looked up, surprised she knew his name. Learn the difference between go and bathroom before tomorrow. Otherwise, Mia's going to tease you again. He almost smiled. Almost. And when he left the coffee shop for the second time that day, Brooke kept staring at the door for way too long. Marcus, her coworker barista, suddenly appeared beside her. That's Jason Crawford, right? The billionaire? Brooke blinked. Seriously. He's like Forbes' top 50. Owner of Crawford Industries. That huge building downtown? It's his. Brooke looked down at the napkin he'd held, the warmth of his fingers still there. Huh? Didn't know that. And you just gave him your number? To help his daughter? It's no big deal. Marcus laughed. Sure, no big deal. He walked back behind the counter, but before disappearing, he shouted, "Just don't forget us when you become the new Cinderella." Brooke threw a dish towel at him, but when she was alone again, she looked at the door, then at the napkin, then at her own hands. Hands that knew how to sign, to serve coffee, to wipe tables. Hands that also signed million-dollar contracts in Bean and Soul court meetings. Because Brooke Anderson wasn't just a waitress. She was the heir to one of the largest coffee shop chains in the country. And she was about to step into the life of a man who had no idea who she really was. Brooke sighed, put away her apron, and grabbed her purse. "This is going to be trouble," she murmured. But she went anyway. Because for the first time in months, working anonymously behind a counter, she had felt something real. And she wasn't ready to let that go. Not yet. That night, Jason kept staring at the napkin with the number scribbled on it. He wasn't usually nervous. He closed million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. But texting a waitress? That was uncharted territory. He typed, "Hello, this is Jason Crawford. Can we meet tomorrow at 10 a.m.? He deleted it. Too formal. He tried again. "Hi, is 10 a.m. tomorrow good for you?" Deleted again. Too casual. In the end, he just sent, "Tomorrow 10?" The reply came in less than a minute. "Perfect, and bring Mia. No mixing up signs this time, okay?" He almost smiled. Almost. He typed back, "Okay." Brooke laughed when she saw the message. Definitely a man who probably needed a password just to smile. She tossed her phone into her purse and looked out the apartment window. Outside, Seattle glowed with its cold, distant lights. Tomorrow she'd go back to being just the friendly waitress. The girl who made milkshakes and told jokes. Not the heiress of a coffee empire worth over $200 million. Brooke bit her lip. Maybe she should have told him the truth. But how? "Hi, I'm rich too, so don't worry." That didn't quite work. She had started that little experiment, working anonymously to truly understand the business, to see what it was like on the other side of the counter, to deserve the empire that would one day be hers. But now, a billionaire was waiting for her at 10 in the morning. And a little girl who had finally started to smile again. And a lie that was growing with every second of silence. At 10 a.m. the next day, Mia Crawford was standing at the door of Bean and Soul doing something she hadn't done in months. She was excited to go in. Jason held his daughter's hand, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. He had spent the entire night watching sign language tutorials on YouTube. 3 hours, 47 videos. And he was still sure he'd confuse "thank you" with "sorry" at the first chance. Marcus was at the register when they came in and greeted them with that wide grin of someone who knows exactly what's going on. "She's in the back table. Said you could go straight in." Jason nodded formally, as if walking into a board meeting. Mia tugged his hand and practically ran to the table. And there was Brooke, sitting with 2 giant milkshakes in front of her and a smile that lit up the entire coffee shop. She wore the same simple outfit as always, jeans, a white blouse, worn-out sneakers, but somehow she looked more beautiful than any woman Jason had ever met at a gala event. When Mia got close, Brooke signed before speaking. "Good morning, milkshake princess." Mia giggled and signed back. "Good morning, coffee queen." Jason stood there frozen, not understanding a word, but smiling on the inside. Brooke looked at him and spoke aloud this time. "Relax, you can sit. I won't charge admission." He sat down, stiff, as if the chair were made of glass. Brooke pushed one milkshake toward Mia and the other toward Jason. "This one's special. It's called the disaster shake. Half strawberry, half chocolate. Like when you can't decide and just embrace the chaos." Jason looked at the cup like it might explode. "I don't usually have sugar in the morning." Brooke tilted her head. "Do you usually smile in the morning?" Silence. "Then drink the milkshake." Mia covered her mouth, trying not to laugh too loud. Jason sighed, picked up the straw, and took a sip. It was ridiculously sweet, over the top, childish, and unbelievably good. Brooke clapped her hands. "Look at that! The CEO finally discovered sugar doesn't kill." Jason rolled his eyes but almost smiled. Almost. Mia signed something quickly to Brooke. She translated it out loud for Jason. She said, "You're becoming less of a robot." "Thank you?" He wasn't sure if that was a compliment. "It is." Brooke winked, and that was the moment everything changed. Because over the next 40 minutes, Brooke did something Jason had never managed to do. She made Mia talk. Not with words, but with gestures, expressions, and laughter. First came the funny face competition. Brooke started by making a fish face while signing, "Sad fish who forgot where he lives." Mia burst out laughing and answered with a monkey face eating an invisible banana. Jason watched from the chair beside them. He didn't understand half of the signs, but he understood everything, because for the first time, he was seeing his daughter being a child again. Then Brooke took it to the next level. "Okay, now we'll make faces with signs. Like, you do the sign wrong on purpose, and we have to guess what you meant." Mia nodded, excited. Brooke went first. She tried to sign elephant, but her hands were reversed, and it looked more like angry giant nose. Mia laughed so hard she could barely breathe and signed, "Is that an elephant or a broken vacuum cleaner?" Brooke pretended to be offended. "A vacuum cleaner? How dare you?" They laughed so much that Marcus came over to see what was going on and ended up staying just to watch. Then it was Mia's turn. She signed butterfly, but exaggerated so much that it looked more like drunk bird trying to fly. Brooke nearly fell off her chair. Was that a butterfly or a crashing helicopter? Mia hit the table, laughing so hard the milkshake almost spilled. Jason tried to catch it, but it was too late. The cup tipped over. Pink milkshake exploded across the table, ran down to the floor, and splashed on his suit. Silence. Mia froze. The smile vanished. Her eyes filled with fear. Jason looked at the stain on his suit, then at his daughter, and he saw it. That look, that fear of disappointing him. He opened his mouth to say it was okay, but before he could, Brooke stood up. "Wow," she said, staring at the mess with mock admiration. "That was impressive, like Olympic-level milkshake spill." Mia blinked, confused. Brooke went on. "I mean it. I've worked here for months and never seen anyone cover this much surface area. You've got talent, Mia." The girl gave a nervous giggle. Jason understood what Brooke was doing, and for the first time, he followed her lead. He grabbed a napkin, looked at his stained suit, and signed something he'd learned on YouTube the night before. "I don't like this suit anyway." Mia's eyes widened. Brooke translated aloud just to be sure. "Wait, did you just say you don't like the suit?" Jason nodded, and this time, he really smiled. Mia looked at her father, then at Brooke, then back at him, and she smiled too. Brooke sat back down and signed to Mia. "Your dad is learning, slowly, but he's trying." Mia nodded slowly, then signed something that made Jason's heart tighten. "I'm always afraid of making him sad." Brooke took her hand gently. "He's already sad. Because you're sad, you both need to stop being afraid of each other." Jason didn't understand their words, but he saw the tears in his daughter's eyes. He saw the way Brooke held her hand with care. And he realized something that hurt more than any missed meeting or canceled deal. He didn't know how to communicate with his own daughter. Not really. He knew how to give orders, pay bills, solve problems, but he didn't know how to ask how she felt, what she was afraid of. And Brooke, in less than an hour, had discovered all of it. When they left the cafe, Jason held Mia's hand tighter. She looked up and signed something simple. "Thank you, Dad." He stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. Not because he didn't understand, but because he understood perfectly. And when he looked back, Brooke was still standing by the cafe door, watching them. Their eyes met, and for 3 seconds, neither of them looked away, until Marcus shouted from inside, "Brooke, customer waiting!" She blinked, waved, and disappeared inside. Jason stood there longer than he should have, his suit stained with milkshake, his heart beating faster than usual. And for the first time in years, he didn't think about work, about meetings, about contracts. He thought about her. And that's when he was completely lost. Jason Crawford did something that Friday no one at Crawford Industries expected. He brought his daughter to the office. And he brought a waitress with her. The idea had been Mia's. The night before, she had asked in sign language if Brooke could see where her father worked. Jason didn't know how to say no. So, at 9 o'clock on Friday morning, the three of them were stepping into the marble lobby of Crawford Tower in the heart of Seattle. Brooke stopped at the door and looked up. The building had 40 floors, glass, steel, the kind of construction that screamed money without saying a word. "Wow," she said, glancing at Jason. "Do you work here or do you own the place?" "Technically both." Brooke let out a low whistle. "Show off, but fine." Jason almost laughed. Almost. Mia tugged on Brooke's hand and signed. "Come, there's a room with a giant couch." They entered hand in hand while Jason followed behind, trying not to look as lost as he felt. Because bringing a woman to the office wasn't exactly standard procedure. especially one wearing pink Converse sneakers and a hoodie that read, "I run on coffee and sarcasm." Inside the elevator, Brooke pressed all the buttons at once. Jason gave her that "you're kidding me" look. Sorry. Childhood reflex. She pressed the button for the 40th floor again. I promise I'll behave. Mia covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. When the doors opened on the top floor, 3 executives in suits were waiting. Andrew Carter from finance, Lisa Monroe from legal, and David Chen from technology. All 3 froze when they saw Jason step out of the elevator with a child and a waitress. Andrew was the first to recover. "Good morning, Mr. Crawford. I didn't know we had visitors today." Jason adjusted his tie. "This is Brooke, and you already know Mia." Brooke extended her hand with a bright smile. "Hi, everyone. Sorry for invading corporate territory. I promise I won't steal any trade secrets." Lisa blinked twice. David gave a nervous laugh. Andrew shook her hand with the expression of a man who wasn't sure if this was a test or a prank. Brooke looked around the conference room. Everything was minimalist, white, gray, glass. It looked like the set of a spy movie. "Wow, you all work inside a luxury perfume commercial." Jason covered his mouth, pretending to cough, but really hiding the smile trying to escape. Lisa couldn't help herself. "Do you always say whatever comes to mind?" "Always. Is that a problem?" "No," Lisa said, smiling for real this time. "Actually, it's refreshing." Mia signed something, and Brooke translated. "She wants to know if you have coffee here or if you need to go to a real cafe to get a decent one." Andrew burst out laughing. "I like her." Jason gave Brooke that look that said, "You're destroying my reputation, but I can't even be mad." David went to get coffee for everyone, while Mia explored the room, dragging Brooke along. They stopped in front of the big window overlooking the entire city. Brooke signed, "Your dad is like a corporate superhero, like Batman, but with fewer issues." Mia laughed. Jason watched from across the room. He didn't understand the signs, but he understood the connection. That's when David came back with a tray. Coffee for everyone, except Jason, who preferred to wait for his assistant to bring his Italian espresso. Brooke took a cup and sipped, made a face. "Okay, what is this? Coffee or water with trauma?" Andrew nearly spit his drink back into the cup. Lisa laughed so hard she had to apologize. Jason finally let out a real smile, small but real. "Our corporate coffee is known for being weak." "Weak?" Brooke lifted the cup. "This isn't weak, it's undercover tea. Like coffee in a witness protection program." David was already laughing before she even finished the line. That's when Jason's assistant walked in with his espresso in a white porcelain cup. He placed it on the table and left. Brooke looked at the cup, then at Jason. "Wait a minute. You get VIP coffee while everyone else drinks dirty water?" Jason picked up the cup. "It's Italian espresso, from a specific roastery in Rome." "Of course it is." Brooke rolled her eyes but smiled. "I bet you order it through a digitally signed email." Andrew almost fell out of his chair. Jason lifted the cup to take the first sip when Mia ran over to show Brooke something. She bumped into the table. The cup tilted. The coffee spilled, right onto his navy blue suit jacket. Silence. Mia froze again. That same fear in her eyes. But before Jason could react, Brooke was already in front of him with napkins in her hands. "I got it." She started dabbing the stain on his shoulder, quick, efficient, but gentle. And then it happened. Her fingers brushed his chest under the jacket. For a second, 2 at most. But it was enough. Jason stopped breathing. Brooke stopped moving. They were so close he could smell the vanilla in her hair, see the freckles on her nose, count the 3 shades of blue in her eyes. She looked up, their eyes met, and the world disappeared. Until Andrew cleared his throat from across the room. Do you 2 need more napkins or something?" Brooke stepped back so fast she almost tripped. Her face turned red. "Sorry, I was just trying to help." Jason cleared his throat. "It's fine. Thank you." His voice came out rougher than he wanted. Mia looked at Lisa. Lisa looked at David. David looked at Andrew. And they all tried not to smile. Brooke put the napkins away and looked anywhere but at Jason. Then her eyes landed on a framed photo on the wall, an older man standing next to Jason, cutting a ribbon at what looked like a big event. "Who's that?" Brooke asked. Jason followed her gaze. "My father, Henry Crawford, founder of the company." Something changed in Brooke's face. It became more serious, distant. "He looks like someone important." He was. "What's it like?" she asked softly. "Working under someone's legacy like that?" knowing one day all of this will be yours, and you can't afford to disappoint anyone? Jason tilted his head, surprised by the question. It's heavy. You feel every day like you have to prove you deserve it. Brooke nodded slowly. Her eyes stayed on the photo, and for a moment Jason had the impression she wasn't talking about his father anymore. She was talking about her own. But before he could ask, Mia grabbed Brooke's hand again, and the moment was gone. They spent another hour in the office. Mia explored the break room. Brooke made friends with half the floor, and Jason just watched, still feeling the ghost of her touch on his chest. When they were leaving, Andrew came up to him and whispered, "Who is she, really?" Jason glanced toward the door where Brooke and Mia were waiting. "A waitress." "Man." Andrew shook his head. "That's not just a waitress. Nobody talks like that. Nobody acts like that. Not unless they've come from somewhere." Jason didn't answer, because Andrew was right, and that scared him more than it should. Jason Crawford was starting to realize he had a problem. He couldn't stop thinking about her. And now he had to take her to the most important event of the quarter. The Seattle Charity Gala happened every year at the Grand Olympic Hotel. Black tie required. Press at the door. All the big names from the West Coast gathered in a golden ballroom to pretend they cared about social causes while secretly comparing Swiss watches. Jason hated those events, but as CEO he went, smiled for photos, signed checks, went home alone. But this time he'd done something different. He had invited Brooke. It had been Mia's idea. She'd asked if Brooke could come, and Jason hadn't been able to say no. So he texted her on Thursday night, "There's a charity event Saturday. I'd like you to come." Her reply came in seconds. "You mean like fancy clothes and all?" "Yes, I'll look like Cinderella at the ball, but okay, I'm in." And that's how, on Saturday night, Jason found himself waiting at the hotel entrance with Mia beside him as Brooke stepped out of an Uber. When he saw her, he almost forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple navy blue dress. No designer label, nothing flashy, but it looked perfect. Her blonde hair fell in soft waves, and she'd traded her sneakers for black heels that clearly hurt. She had a slight limp. Brooke stopped in front of them and made a small dramatic bow. "So, did I pass the test? Do I look like someone who doesn't wear an apron to work?" Jason swallowed hard. "You look beautiful." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Brooke blinked, surprised, then smiled. "Wow, a compliment from the corporate robot? I should frame this moment." Mia signed something quickly. Brooke laughed and translated. "She says you're blushing." "She's not wrong." Jason almost smiled. But then he saw who was walking into the hotel. Charlotte Monroe, his half-sister, daughter from their father's second marriage, and the person who hated most that Jason had inherited the company. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than a car and was arm in arm with Tyler Monroe, a distant cousin, market analyst, and her partner in every scheme. Charlotte stopped when she saw Jason. Her eyes scanned Brooke from head to toe, the kind of look that judged before asking anything. "Jason, dear?" she said, her voice dripping sweetness like sugar with poison. "I didn't know you'd be bringing company." "Charlotte," Jason said evenly. "This is Brooke." Brooke extended her hand. "Hi, nice to meet you." Charlotte looked at her hand as if it were contagious, then gave it a two-finger shake. And how did you meet my brother?" "I work at a cafe." Tyler let out a quiet laugh. Charlotte raised an eyebrow. "How interesting. A waitress." She looked at Jason with a smile that could cut glass. "You've always been so democratic, Jason." Brooke felt the jab, but she smiled anyway. "Actually, I prefer the term elite barista. Sounds fancier." Jason almost laughed. Charlotte didn't. "I'm sure it does." She adjusted her Hermès bag on her shoulder. "Well, let's go inside. We don't want to miss the mayor's speech." And she walked in without looking back. Tyler gave a small wave before following his cousin. Brooke exhaled the breath she'd been holding. Is she always like that? Or did I just get the special treatment? Always. Nice. At least she's consistent. Mia grabbed Brooke's hand and squeezed it as if to say don't mind her. Brooke smiled and signed back. "I'm fine, princess. I've dealt with worse." But inside, her stomach tightened, because this was only the beginning. The main hall was everything Brooke imagined. Crystal chandeliers, tables with flower arrangements that probably cost more than her rent, and rich people pretending to be humble while drinking $1,000 champagne. Jason led them to their reserved table. Andrew was there with his wife, Lisa with her husband, And David alone, because he'd just gone through a divorce and hadn't recovered yet. Everyone greeted Brooke with genuine smiles, except for the woman at the next table, who looked at her as if trying to guess how much her dress cost. Dinner began. Salad no one ate. Salmon everyone pretended to like, and endless speeches about charity and social responsibility. Brooke tried to pay attention but couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. By Charlotte, by Tyler, by half a dozen others who clearly knew she didn't belong there. Then came the time for public donations. One by one, guests stood and announced how much they would give to the evening's foundation. 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. Jason donated 100,000 without blinking. Charlotte stood right after him. I'd like to donate 150,000. She paused dramatically. And I'd also like to make a toast. She raised her champagne glass. Everyone in the hall followed. To new friendships, Charlotte said, looking directly at Brooke. And to people who remind us to appreciate where we came from. The whole room toasted, except Brooke, who understood the message perfectly. Jason gripped his napkin tightly. But Charlotte wasn't finished. She turned toward Jason's table and spoke loudly enough for half the room to hear. Jason, dear, you've always been so generous, even with friendships. She looked at Brooke with a fake smile. I bet your companion has never even seen a donation contract before. This must all be so new to her. The room went silent. All eyes turned to Brooke. She felt her face burn, her palms sweat, her heart race. But she wasn't going to let Charlotte win. So she raised her glass too, smiled and replied, Actually, I've seen plenty of contracts, but you're right, I've never signed a donation one. She paused. I usually prefer to donate time. You know, that thing money can't buy? Andrew choked on his champagne. Lisa covered her mouth. David clapped by accident, then tried to hide it as a cough. Charlotte turned red. Tyler whispered something in her ear. And Jason looked at Brooke with a mix of pride and worry. Because he knew there would be consequences, and there were. Charlotte stood up, walked over to Jason's table, and spoke just loud enough for them to hear. You think you're clever? That you can come here and play Cinderella? She leaned closer. I know exactly who you are, a gold-digging waitress trying to trap my brother. Brooke felt the words hit like a punch. Jason stood up. Charlotte, that's enough. No, Jason, someone needs to protect you from yourself. She turned and walked out. The room went back to whispers. Brooke looked down at the table, at her plate, anywhere but the people around her. Jason placed a hand on her shoulder. Let's get out of here. No. Brooke lifted her head, eyes bright but dry. I'm not letting her win. She stayed until the end of the event, smiled in the photos, spoke politely, but inside, she was breaking. Because Charlotte had hit where it hurt. Brooke wasn't a gold-digging waitress. She was the heir to an empire, and she couldn't tell anyone. When Jason dropped her off that night, he had no idea Charlotte was already planning something much worse. Something that would destroy everything. Brooke Anderson had 2 days to decide. Tell the truth and risk losing everything, or keep lying and lose herself. On Monday morning, she woke up to 53 messages on her phone, all from Marcus, her coworker. Brooke, call me, now. It's online. Did you see what Charlotte Monroe posted? Her stomach dropped. She opened the social media app. There it was, a post from Charlotte Monroe with over 20,000 likes, a photo from the charity event, Brooke in the background. And the caption read, When you have to check twice whether your brother's date came straight from the kitchen or the main table. The comments were worse. Who is she? Is she his girlfriend? Does anyone know her name? Brooke threw her phone on the bed and covered her face with her hands. This had gone too far. She had to tell Jason. Before Charlotte found out the truth and twisted everything. At 10 in the morning, Brooke walked into Crawford Tower for the second time. But this time, she wasn't wearing sneakers and a hoodie. She was wearing dress pants, a white blouse, and the posture of someone who knew exactly who she was. The receptionist frowned. Can I help you? I need to talk to Jason Crawford. Do you have an appointment? No, but he'll want to see me. The receptionist picked up the phone. 2 minutes later, Jason stepped out of the elevator with that look that said, What's going on? When he saw Brooke, he stopped. Are you okay? No, I need to talk to you, in private. He nodded and led her to a private meeting room, closed the door, waited. Brooke took a deep breath. I need to tell you something, and you won't like it. Jason crossed his arms. I'm listening. I'm not just a waitress, Jason. He tilted his head. I know. You're much more than that. No, I mean literally. I'm not just a waitress. She swallowed hard. I'm Brooke Anderson, daughter of Robert Anderson, heir to Bean and Soul Coffee. Silence. Jason blinked. The coffee chain, Bean and Soul. 200 stores in 15 states, valued at $250 million. She spoke quickly, like ripping off a bandage. My father founded it. I'll inherit it, and I was working anonymously to understand the business before taking over. Jason took a step back. You lied. I omitted. That's the same thing. No, Jason. I never lied about who I am. I just didn't tell you everything. He ran a hand through his hair, that rare gesture that only appeared when he was losing control. Why? Because I needed to know if people liked me or my last name. And me? His voice rose. Did you think I'd like you for your money? No, Brooke struggled to find the words. I didn't know how to tell you, and the longer I waited, the harder it got. Jason looked at her like she was a stranger. You made me look like a fool. No, I never wanted that. But that's what happened. He walked to the window. I brought you here, introduced you to my executives, took you to the event, and you were judging me the whole time? It wasn't like that. Then what was it, Brooke? She tried to answer, but the door opened. Charlotte walked in, followed by Tyler and Andrew, who clearly didn't want to be there. Charlotte smiled. That poisonous smile. So it's true, you finally told him. Jason turned. How do you know about this? Tyler did his homework. Charlotte crossed her arms. When I saw the mystery girl at the event, I asked him to investigate. And guess what? Brooke Anderson, heiress to $200 million, working as a waitress. She laughed. Brilliant. I almost applaud the strategy. Brooke's stomach turned. It wasn't a strategy. Of course it was. Tyler stepped closer. You infiltrated. Earned his trust, met his daughter, got into the company, all calculated. I didn't calculate anything. Charlotte tilted her head. You know what I think? You wanted information about Crawford Industries to use against us or sell to competitors. Jason looked at Brooke. Is that true? What? Brooke's eyes widened. Jason, you can't seriously believe that. He didn't answer, and that silence hurt more than any word could. Charlotte went on. Think about it, Jason. She appeared out of nowhere, new sign language, won Mia over, seduced you, and now we find out she's the heiress of a rival company? Bean and Soul isn't a rival. Brooke interrupted. We sell coffee, you sell technology, but you have management systems, apps, logistics. Tyler lifted his tablet. Areas where Crawford Industries could be a supplier or a competitor. Andrew finally spoke. Guys, this is getting ridiculous. Ridiculous is my brother trusting someone who lied from day one. Charlotte looked straight at Jason. She used you. Jason looked at Brooke. Those blue eyes that had always been so sure were now full of doubt. Did you use Mia to get close to me? Brooke felt her eyes burn. No, Jason, I swear, but you lied. I omitted, which is different. Not to me. The silence that followed was devastating. Brooke took a breath, wiped her tears, and lifted her chin. All right, I understand. She picked up her purse. My name is Brooke Anderson, heiress to Bean and Soul Coffee. The only secret I ever kept was believing in people. And maybe, she looked at Jason one last time, believing in you. Charlotte smiled, victorious. Jason said nothing, and Brooke walked out. She walked through the office with her head held high, stepped into the elevator, and only when the doors closed did she let the tears fall, because she had lost. Not the battle with Charlotte, but something much worse. She had lost Jason, and for the first time in months, she had no idea how to fix it. On the other side of the door, Andrew looked at Jason. Do you really believe that corporate espionage story? Jason didn't answer. Charlotte smiled. He's too smart to fall for it again. But inside, Jason was breaking, because he no longer knew who to trust. The woman who had made his daughter smile. Or the half-sister who always had something to gain. And while Brooke drove home with a broken heart, Charlotte and Tyler were already planning their next move. One that would destroy not just Brooke, but everything she cared about. 3 weeks after the revelation, Jason Crawford realized something terrible. He had made the biggest mistake of his life. And now it was too late to fix it. The Crawford Tower was still running. Meetings took place, contracts were signed, but Jason was on autopilot. Like one of those robot vacuums that keep bumping into the same wall without knowing why. Andrew walked into his office on a Tuesday afternoon and placed 3 reports on the desk. Need your signature. Jason signed without reading. Andrew frowned. You just approved a $20 million investment in pink unicorn breeding. Jason looked up. What? It was a test. You didn't read a thing. Andrew sat down across from him. Man, you've been a zombie for 3 weeks. I'm fine. That's a lie. You're thinking about her. Jason didn't answer. Because Andrew was right. He thought about Brooke all the time. The way she laughed, how she made Mia smile, the touch of her fingers wiping coffee off his jacket, the look in her eyes when he doubted her, and worse, her face when she realized he had believed Charlotte's lie. Andrew sighed. You messed up. I know. Then fix it. I can't. Why not? Because I hurt her, and she won't forgive me. Andrew stood up. You won't know that until you try. But Jason didn't try, because he was afraid of the answer. Mia had noticed the absence too. In the first week she asked in sign language, "Where's Brooke?" Jason answered, "She's busy." In the second week, Mia stopped asking. And in the third week, she stopped smiling. Again. Jason saw her at breakfast, hair neat, school uniform on, but her eyes were empty. That same distant look she had before meeting Brooke. He tried to communicate, but his signing was still poor, and the connection Brooke had created between them simply wasn't there anymore. One night, Mia was sitting on the couch, watching TV without paying attention when Jason sat beside her. He tried to sign, "Do you want to talk about something?" Mia looked at him, then slowly signed. "Did you send her away?" Jason felt his chest tighten. "No, it was complicated." "Did you like her?" He hesitated, because answering that question meant admitting something he wasn't ready to face. "Yes." Mia turned her head and signed one last thing before going upstairs. "Then you're an idiot." Jason sat alone in the living room, and for the first time in years, he laughed. Not out of joy, but that sad kind of laugh that comes when you realize even your 8-year-old daughter understands life better than you do. Across the city, Brooke Anderson was having the worst meeting of her life. She sat in the conference room at Bean & Soul Coffee headquarters. Her father, Robert Anderson, was at the head of the table. 3 directors sat on the sides, and she was in the middle, trying to explain why she had spent 6 months working anonymously at a cafe. "Let me get this straight," her father said, crossing his arms. "You skipped strategy meetings to serve coffee?" "I didn't skip them. I just needed to understand the business for real." "And did you?" Brooke thought of the conversations with customers, the strange orders, the busy days, the exhaustion at the end of a shift, and Mia laughing with milkshake on her nose. "Yes, I did," Robert sighed. "And what else did you learn besides how to operate an espresso machine?" Brooke bit her lip. "That sometimes the most valuable things don't show up in financial reports." "Brooke, that's very nice, but it doesn't pay suppliers." "I know, Dad. But I also know we've lost touch with what makes this business work. People, stories, moments." One of the directors cleared his throat. "With all due respect, Miss Anderson, that sounds very philosophical for a company that needs to hit targets." Brooke was about to respond when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Marcus. "Did you see? Mia came here today, with the bodyguard, without her dad. She asked about you." Her heart tightened. She apologized to the room, got up, and drove straight to Bean & Soul. When she got there, Mia was sitting at the same table as always. Half-finished milkshake. Sad eyes. Marcus pointed and whispered, "She showed up about half an hour ago, ordered a milkshake, and since then, she's just been staring at the door." Brooke took a deep breath, fixed her hair, and walked to the table. When Mia looked up and saw her, her face lit up. She stood so fast she almost knocked over the cup and ran to hug Brooke. Brooke held her tightly, realizing just how much she had missed that small, warm hug. They sat down, and Mia started signing too fast, like when you have too much to say and don't know where to start. "You disappeared. I thought I did something wrong." Brooke shook her head. "No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything. It was just adults being stupid." Mia almost smiled. "My dad is sad." Brooke swallowed hard. "So am I." "Then why don't you talk to each other?" "Because sometimes adults are terrible at fixing things." Mia frowned and signed something that made Brooke laugh and cry at the same time. "Adults are dumb." "True. We're terrible." They stayed there for an hour, talking in signs, laughing about silly things, remembering the funny moments. Like when Mia spilled milkshake on her dad's suit, like when Jason mixed up bathroom with go, like when Brooke made faces so ridiculous that a customer took pictures, thinking it was performance art. Simple memories. Foolish ones, but real. And they were all Brooke had now. Because Jason wasn't there, and probably never would be again. That night, Jason got a call from Marcus, the bodyguard. "Mr. Crawford, just wanted to let you know Miss Mia met someone today at the cafe." Jason's heart sped up. "Who?" "Miss Brooke." Jason closed his eyes. "Did they talk?" "For about an hour. Miss Mia was smiling when we left." After he hung up, Jason stared at his phone. He had Brooke's number saved. He could call, send a message, apologize, but he didn't, because he still didn't know what to say. And while he hesitated, Charlotte and Tyler were in an office across town finishing a plan that would destroy any chance of reconciliation. A plan involving fake documents and an accusation Brooke would never be able to prove false. Nora Chen had a theory about complicated men. The more Italian suits they wore, the less they knew how to communicate, and she was about to prove it to her best friend. Brooke woke up Thursday morning to someone pounding on her door like the building was on fire. She looked at the clock. 7 a.m. "Go away, Marcus. I'm not going to work today." "It's not Marcus." "Open this door before I use the spare key you gave me." Brooke recognized the voice. Nora. She dragged herself to the door and opened it. Nora stormed in like a hurricane. Short, messy black hair, leather jacket, and 2 paper bags that smelled like donuts. "Good morning, sunshine." Nora tossed the bags onto the kitchen table. "I brought reinforcements, donuts and strong coffee, because you need both." Brooke closed the door. "Nora, it's 7 in the morning." "I know. That's why I brought donuts. I'm not hungry." "Brooke, you've spent 3 weeks eating sadness and ice cream. I know because Marcus told me everything, so sit down and eat a donut before I shove it in your mouth." Brooke almost smiled. Almost. She sat down, grabbed a chocolate donut, and took a slow bite. Nora pulled up a chair and sat across from her. "So, let's talk about the elephant in the room." "What elephant?" "The billionaire CEO you're avoiding." Brooke stopped chewing. "I'm not avoiding him." "Liar. You vanished off the map, stopped going to the cafe. Marcus says you only leave the house for board meetings." "I'm working." "You're hiding." Brooke set the donut back on the plate. "Nora, I don't want to talk about this." "I know, but you have to." Nora pulled out her phone and opened an email. "Look at this." Brooke took the phone and read. It was an invitation. The Crawford Foundation Annual Gala, a charity event focused on social inclusion. Date, Saturday. Location, Seattle Convention Center. At the bottom there was a scanned handwritten note. "Mia would really like you to be there. Jason Crawford." Brooke's heart tightened. "How did you get this?" "Marcus got it. It was meant for you. But since you were too busy drowning in self-pity, he sent it to me." Brooke pushed the phone back. "I'm not going." "Yes, you are." "No, Nora, I can't be near him." "Why not? Because he doubted you? Because he believed her?" Brooke's voice came out louder than she wanted. "He listened to Charlotte accuse me of being a corporate spy, and he believed it. Didn't even ask questions, didn't give me a chance to explain." Nora nodded slowly. "You're right. He was an idiot." "Thank you." "But..." Nora raised a finger. "You lied too." Brooke opened her mouth to protest. "No, wait. Let me finish." Nora leaned forward. "You hid who you really were. I get why. But from his point of view, you showed up out of nowhere. Won over his daughter, joined the company, and then he finds out you're the heiress of a multi-million-dollar business. How do you think that felt to him?" Brooke looked away. "Deceived. Exactly. And then his crazy sister shows up saying you're spying on them. He's confused, scared, trying to protect his daughter." Nora sighed. "He was wrong, but so were you." Brooke felt tears burning in her eyes. "I just wanted him to trust me. And he wanted you to be honest. So we ruined everything." "Yes, but you can fix it." Nora pushed the phone back toward her. "Start by going to that event." "Nora, I don't know if I can." "It's not for him, it's for Mia." Nora's voice softened. "That little girl loves you. You brought light into her life, and now she's asking you to come back. At least for one night." Brooke looked at the invitation again, read the handwritten note, and imagined Mia writing it, or worse, asking her father to. "What if he doesn't even want to talk to me?" "Then you talk to Mia, take pictures, eat expensive appetizers, and leave." Nora smiled. "But at least you tried." Brooke bit her lip. "Not every CEO deserves a second shot of espresso, you know." Nora burst out laughing. "I know. I say that all the time. Some CEOs you serve and you just know they're not leaving a tip. And some CEOs mix up go with bathroom." They both laughed. The kind of laugh that releases all the tension, that reminds you there's still some lightness in the world. When they finally stopped, Nora took Brooke's hand. Go. Not for him, for you. To close the circle, whatever that means. Brooke took a deep breath. Okay, I'll go. Perfect. Nora stood up. Now let's find a dress that will make him regret everything. Nora. What? Fashion revenge is totally valid. Brooke laughed again, and for the first time in 3 weeks she felt that maybe, just maybe, things could be okay, even if her heart still hurt. On Saturday night, Brooke spent 40 minutes in front of the mirror changing her mind. First, the black dress, too much like a funeral. Then the blue one. Too predictable. She finally chose an emerald green dress Nora had bought her years ago. Simple, elegant, with a side slit that said, I don't need you, but you're definitely gonna notice me. Nora picked her up at 7. Wow, you look perfect. I'm nervous. Of course, but you're gonna do great. They got in the car, and the whole drive Brooke stayed quiet, looking out the window, trying not to think about the moment she'd see Jason again. Would he talk to her? Ignore her? Apologize? Or worse, would he be with someone else? The thought made her stomach twist. When they arrived at the Seattle Convention Center, the place was packed. Luxury cars lined the entrance, photographers, security everywhere. Nora parked and squeezed Brooke's hand. Breathe. You're Brooke Anderson, heiress of an empire, an incredible woman, the one who made that little girl smile again. No one can take that away from you, not a crazy sister, not a confused CEO. Brooke nodded. Thank you. You're welcome. Now go and show him what he lost. They stepped out of the car, walked through the entrance, and entered the main hall. The room was huge, filled with soft lights and floral arrangements. At least 200 people, all dressed to impress, laughing and chatting like it was just another social event. But to Brooke, it felt like a battlefield. She scanned the room looking for 2 people, Mia and Jason. That's when she heard the voice. Brooke? She turned, and there he was. Jason Crawford. Black suit, dark blue tie, perfectly styled hair, and those blue eyes she'd spent 3 weeks trying to forget. He stood about 10 feet away, alone, looking at her like he'd just seen a ghost or something he thought he'd lost forever. Brooke opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, a high-pitched voice cut through the air. Brooke! Mia came running across the ballroom. Pink dress, hair tied with a bow, and the biggest smile Brooke had seen in weeks. She threw herself into Brooke's arms, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. At least for now. But on the other side of the room, Charlotte watched with a cold smile, because she had a surprise prepared. One that would destroy Brooke in front of everyone. Charlotte Monroe had 3 things that night: a $5,000 red dress, a poisonous smile, and a video that would ruin Brooke Anderson forever. And she was just about to press play. Mia held Brooke's hand like an anchor. They stood in the middle of the ballroom while people passed by, greeting them and pretending not to stare. Jason stood a few feet away, unsure if he should approach or give her space. It was Andrew who broke the silence. He appeared out of nowhere, holding a glass of champagne and wearing that grin of someone who lives to create awkward situations. Brooke, what a great surprise. He hugged her like they were old friends. I thought you'd gone into witness protection or something. Brooke let out a nervous laugh. I was just taking care of some things. Like hiding the fact that you're a millionaire heiress? Andrew winked, because that was the best personal marketing move I've ever seen. Beyoncé-level surprise album kind of thing. Jason cleared his throat beside them. Andrew. What? I'm giving her a compliment. Lisa showed up right after, with her husband. Brooke. She hugged her too. You're back. Jason has been unbearable these past weeks, like even more robotic than usual. Jason turned red. Lisa? It's true, David joined in. He approved a $15 million investment without even reading it. I tested him. I added a paragraph about adopting llamas, and he signed it. Brooke couldn't hold back her laughter. Seriously? Swear to it. David raised his hand. We have 3 llamas arriving on Monday. Even Jason almost smiled. Almost. Mia tugged on Brooke's sleeve and signed. They're funny. Did you miss them? Brooke signed back. I did, but I missed you more. Mia's eyes lit up. Jason watched everything in silence. He wanted to speak but didn't know how to start. Then the ballroom lights flickered. The host walked onto the stage and everyone began taking their seats. Andrew nudged Jason. Go on. Talk to her. It's not the right time. Man, it's never the right time. Make it happen. But before Jason could reply, Charlotte walked onto the stage beside the host. She took the microphone with that smile that could send chills down your spine. Good evening, everyone. Before we begin the official presentations, I'd like to share something very important, something that concerns the integrity of this foundation and of Crawford Industries. The room went silent. Jason frowned. Andrew whispered, "What is she doing?" Charlotte continued, "As many of you know, my brother Jason is a man of principles. He believes in transparency, honesty, and trust." She paused dramatically, "Which is why I feel it's my moral duty to alert him and all of you about something we recently discovered." She gestured, and Tyler appeared with a tablet, connecting it to the large screen behind the stage. "A few weeks ago, someone infiltrated my brother's life, pretending to be just a waitress, gaining his trust and my niece's." Charlotte's eyes locked on Brooke. But that person had ulterior motives. Brooke's stomach dropped. Charlotte pressed play. The screen lit up. A video began. It showed Brooke sitting in a conference room. Across from her, 3 men in suits. On the wall behind them, a logo, TechCore Solutions, Crawford Industries' biggest competitor. In the video, Brooke spoke, "So you want access to their management system?" One of the men replied, "Yes. Any information on suppliers, contracts, strategic partnerships?" Brooke in the video smiled. "I can get that." The ballroom erupted in whispers. Jason went pale. Brooke stood up from her chair. "That's a lie." Charlotte stopped the video. "A lie? Brooke, dear, this was recorded 2 weeks ago. You met with TechCore executives, offered confidential information, and betrayed my brother's trust." Brooke felt the world spin. "I never did that. I've never met those people. The video doesn't lie. The video is fake." Tyler walked onto the stage. "Actually, Miss Anderson, we also have records of emails exchanged between you and TechCore. Would you like us to project those as well?" Brooke looked around. All eyes on her. Judging. Believing. She searched for Jason's eyes. He was looking at the screen, then at her, and doubt was written all over his face. Again. "Jason," her voice broke. "You know I would never do that." He didn't answer. And that silence was worse than any accusation. Brooke felt the tears burning, but she refused to cry there, not in front of them. She grabbed her purse and started walking toward the exit. Mia ran after her, tugging on her sleeve. Brooke knelt down and signed, "I have to go, princess." Mia shook her head, eyes full of tears. "Don't go, please." Brooke hugged her tightly and whispered, "I love you, never forget that." And she left. The ballroom stayed silent until Mia turned toward the stage, walked right up to Charlotte, and did something no one expected. She signed, loud and clear for everyone to see. "You're a liar." Charlotte blinked. "Sweetheart, I don't understand sign language." Jason did. And he translated, without meaning to. She said, "You're a liar." Andrew looked at the big screen, then at Jason. "Man, did you notice the detail?" "What detail?" "The video, the date in the corner." Andrew pointed. "It says it was recorded 2 weeks ago. But look at the calendar on the wall behind them. It's marked October. We're in December." Jason looked again. Andrew was right. Lisa stepped closer. "And there's more." Brooke in the video is wearing the same blue dress from the charity event, the one from 2 months ago. She turned to Charlotte. He used old footage and added fake audio. The whole ballroom turned to Charlotte. She lost her smile. Tyler tried to step off the stage, but David blocked him. "I don't think so, buddy. You're not going anywhere." Jason walked up on stage. He looked at Charlotte with a coldness that even made her step back. "You did this?" "Jason, I was only trying to protect you. By lying? By destroying someone's reputation in front of everyone?" "She was going to hurt you. The only person hurting me right now is you." The whole room held its breath. Charlotte tried to argue, but Jason had already turned away. He left the stage and looked around for Brooke, but she was gone. Outside the convention center, Brooke leaned against the wall and finally let the tears fall. Nora came running. "Wait! I can't do this anymore, Nora. I can't." "I know, but you need to hear this. The video was fake." Jason found out. Mia figured it out. Everyone knows Charlotte lied. Brooke wiped her eyes. "It doesn't matter. He doubted me again. I saw it in his eyes." He was in shock. He was in doubt. Brooke's voice broke. "And I can't be with someone who doesn't trust me." Nora hugged her, and they stayed like that, in the cold Seattle air, while inside, Jason Crawford was finally realizing what he had lost. But maybe too late. Because while Brooke cried outside, Jason was making the most important decision of his life, one that involved throwing out his own sister and doing something he had never done before, admitting publicly that he was wrong. Jason Crawford spent his Saturday night doing something billionaires rarely do. He admitted he had been a complete fool, and now he was going to prove it. Sunday at 6 in the morning, Jason sat in his home office, still in his suit from the event, no sleep, 3 monitors open, a cup of cold coffee beside him. He had spent the last 8 hours investigating, alone. And what he found made his blood boil. The video was fake, obviously, but Jason needed solid proof, so he went after it. First, he checked the file's metadata. The creation date was 3 days ago, not 2 weeks like Charlotte claimed. Second, he enlarged every frame of the video. The calendar on the wall showed October, but the supposed meeting was in December. Third, and most important, he personally called the CEO of TechCore Solutions at 5 in the morning and asked if they had ever met with Brooke Anderson. The answer was no. In fact, they had never even heard of her. Jason hung up the phone and slammed his fist on the desk. How could he have been so stupid? How could he have doubted her again? The office door opened. Mia walked in wearing pajamas, hair messy, eyes swollen from crying. She walked up to her father and signed, "You're going to find her?" Jason took a deep breath. "I will, but first I have to fix something." "What?" "Everything." Mia climbed onto his lap, something she hadn't done in months, and rested her head on his shoulder. Jason hugged her, and for the first time in years, he felt tears in his own eyes. Because he hadn't just lost Brooke, he had almost lost his daughter. Again. Monday morning, 8 o'clock, Jason walked into Crawford Tower with a mission. He went straight past reception, up to the 40th floor, and called an emergency meeting with Andrew, Lisa, and David. When the 3 of them entered the room and saw his expression, they knew. Someone was in trouble. Jason threw a folder on the table. The video was fake. Charlotte and Tyler used old footage, added fake audio, and forged emails. I have all the proof right here. Lisa opened the folder and flipped through the pages. My God, this is criminal. Defamation. Evidence tampering. I know, Jason crossed his arms, and I want them both out of the company, today. Andrew let out a low whistle. You're firing your own sister? She's not my sister. Siblings don't do that. David stood up. I'll prepare the termination papers, with cause, and a non-compete clause to make sure they can't work in the sector for 5 years. Perfect. Jason looked at his watch. Charlotte and Tyler arrive at 9. I want you all in the room when I confront them. Lisa smiled, the kind of smile lawyers get when they're about to take down a villain. It'll be my pleasure. At 9:15, Charlotte walked into the office as if nothing had happened. White dress, high heels, and that fake smile. Tyler followed right behind her with a tablet under his arm. They both froze when they saw Jason, Andrew, Lisa, David, and 2 security guards standing in the conference room. Charlotte frowned. What's going on? Jason pointed to the chairs. Sit down. Jason, dear, I don't have time for... I said sit down. His tone made even Tyler step back. They sat. Jason placed his hands on the table and leaned forward. The video you showed at the event was fake. Charlotte tried to stay composed. Jason, I know you're upset, but... Silence. His voice was ice. I'm not finished. The video was fake, the emails were fake, everything was manipulated, and I have proof. Lisa threw a folder onto the table. Tyler went pale. Charlotte tried to defend herself. We were just trying to protect you. Protect me? Jason gave a bitter laugh. You destroyed an innocent person's reputation in front of 200 witnesses. You lied, you forged evidence, and you made me doubt the only person who truly cared about Mia. She was going to use you. The only person using me here was you. Jason stood up. You've always wanted the company, ever since our father died, and when you realized I'd never hand it to you, you decided to sabotage me. Charlotte stood too. You can't throw me out. I'm a shareholder. I have rights. David slid a document across the table. Actually, according to Clause 7.3 of the shareholder agreement, any behavior that harms the company's image is grounds for loss of shares, with 70% board approval. Tyler looked at the document. You'll never get 70%. We already did. Andrew smiled. We called everyone yesterday. 92% voted in favor of your removal. Charlotte's face turned red. You'll regret this. Jason walked to the door and opened it. The only ones who will regret anything are you two. Now leave, before I call the police and turn this into a criminal case. Charlotte grabbed her purse, glaring at her brother with pure hatred. You're going to fail, Jason, and when you do, no one will be there to save you. At least I'll fail being honest. He pointed to the door. Now, go. She left. Tyler followed. When the door closed, Jason leaned against the table, his hands shaking. Andrew put a hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing. I know, but it came at a price. You can still fix it. How? Lisa smiled. By doing something CEOs rarely do, apologizing in public. Jason looked at her. At the event on Wednesday? Exactly. David nodded. The foundation's hosting the year-end event. Press, donors, everyone important will be there. It's the perfect chance. Jason thought for a moment, then nodded. Get something ready. I'll speak. By Wednesday at 3 in the afternoon, Jason was backstage at the event, rehearsing a speech he had written at 4 in the morning. Andrew appeared with 2 cups of coffee. Brought reinforcements. Jason took one, sipped, and made a face. Is this the corporate coffee? Yeah. Why? It's awful. Andrew laughed. You finally noticed. Took you 5 years. Jason looked at the cup, then at Andrew. Finally, a coffee without bitterness. He gave a dry laugh. Ironically fitting, isn't it? I spent years drinking bad coffee without realizing it. Kind of a metaphor for my entire life. Andrew nearly spit out his coffee. Man, you just made an existential joke. I'm proud of you. Jason smiled. A real one this time. But inside, he was terrified. Because in 30 minutes, he was going to walk on that stage and admit that he was wrong, that he had doubted, that he had lost the woman he loved. And he had no idea if she'd be there to hear it. But what Jason didn't know was that at that very moment, Mia was sending a message to Brooke. A message that said only, please come. My dad needs you. I need you. Brooke Anderson was at home in pajamas, eating ice cream straight from the container when her phone buzzed. It was a message from a number saved as Princess Mia. And what she read made her heart stop. Please come. My dad needs you. I need you. Brooke stared at the phone, then at the ice cream, then at the clock. 3:45 in the afternoon. The event started at 4. She had 15 minutes to decide. Nora came out of the kitchen with another spoon. Who is it? Brooke showed her the message. Nora read it, then gave her that look that said, you already know what you have to do. Go. Nora, I don't know if... Brooke, an 8-year-old just asked you to come. You don't have a choice. Get up, change, and go. But I don't know if he wants to see me. He does, otherwise his daughter wouldn't have sent that message. Nora pulled her off the couch. Now move, you've got 10 minutes. Brooke ran to her room. Threw on the first dress she saw, a simple gray one. Put on lipstick, tied her hair back, and rushed out the door. Nora shouted from behind, go and make him beg. Brooke got in the car, praying she wouldn't hit traffic. She arrived at the Seattle Convention Center at 4:07. 7 minutes late. The event had already started. She slipped in through a side door, trying not to draw attention. The ballroom was packed, at least 300 people. All seated, all watching the stage, where a presenter was talking about the foundation's projects. Brooke hid in the back, near the wall, where no one would notice her. That's when she saw Mia. The little girl was sitting in the front row beside Andrew, looking toward the door as if she somehow knew Brooke would show up. When their eyes met, Mia smiled. That smile that lit up everything. Brooke smiled back and made a small sign. I'm here. Mia nodded and turned toward the stage. The presenter finished and announced, and now, please welcome to the stage, the CEO of Crawford Industries, Jason Crawford. The audience applauded. Jason walked up, gray suit, blue tie, and that posture of someone who'd rehearsed 1,000 times but was still nervous. He stopped at the microphone, looked at the crowd, and took a deep breath. Good afternoon, thank you for being here. He paused. I'll be honest, this isn't the speech I prepared. Actually, I threw away 3 versions before I gave up and decided to tell the truth. A soft laugh ran through the audience. Jason continued. Most of you know me as a CEO, as a businessman, as the guy who signs contracts and closes deals. He gave a faint smile. Or, as my team likes to say, the corporate robot who needs a manual just to smile. Andrew burst out laughing. Lisa covered her mouth. David clapped. The whole audience laughed. Jason waited for it to quiet down. But today, I'm not here as a CEO. I'm here as a father, as a brother, and as someone who made a huge mistake. The room went silent. Jason searched for Brooke in the crowd, but couldn't see her in the back. He kept going anyway. A few weeks ago, someone came into my life. Someone who made my daughter laugh for the first time in months. Someone who taught me that communication isn't about talking, it's about listening. He looked at Mia in the front row. She taught me to listen not just to my daughter, but to the world. To people. To the details I always ignored because I was too busy being efficient. Mia wiped away a tear. Jason drew a deep breath. And when I found out this person had a secret, that she wasn't who I thought she was, I doubted her, twice. He shook his head. I let fear and mistrust speak louder than trust. And because of that, I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. The room was completely still. At last week's event, my half-sister presented false evidence against this person. And I hesitated to defend her. Because I was afraid. Afraid to trust. Afraid to be wrong. He paused. But the only mistake was doubting her. Brooke felt the tears fall. She tried to stay hidden by the wall, but Nora had been right. She needed to be there. Jason went on. So I want to use this moment to say publicly, Brooke Anderson is not a spy. She's not an opportunist. She's the most honest person I've ever met. And I'm sorry for doubting you, for not defending you, for not trusting you when you needed it most. His voice broke. The entire audience held its breath. Jason looked down, then back up. If you're here, Brooke, I'd like a chance. Not to fix everything at once, but to start over, the right way, with honesty, trust, and no more hesitation. The silence that followed was overwhelming. Then someone started clapping. It was Andrew, then Lisa, then David, and finally the entire audience. Mia stood up, turned toward the back of the room, and saw Brooke. She didn't think twice. She ran, down the aisle, strapped between the chairs, until she reached Brooke, and she signed clearly for everyone to see, stay. Brooke sobbed, knelt down, and signed back, I'm not going anywhere. The room erupted in applause again. Jason stepped off the stage, walked down the aisle, and stopped 2 feet away from Brooke. They looked at each other. His eyes were red. Her face was wet with tears. Jason took a step forward. I'm sorry. Brooke wiped her eyes. You hurt me? I know. Twice. I know. And I don't know if I can trust you again. Jason nodded. I understand, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving you can. Brooke let out a tearful laugh. That was very cliché. I know, but it's true. She looked at Mia, who was holding both their hands, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. Then Brooke turned back to Jason. I need to apologize too, for not telling you the truth from the start. You had your reasons, but I still hurt you. Jason took another step closer. Then we're even. 2 idiots who messed up. Brooke laughed, a real laugh this time. 2 idiots. Can I try again? Try what? This. He pointed between them. Us. The right way. Brooke looked into his eyes, those blue eyes that once doubted her but now held only certainty. All right, but on one condition. What is it? You learn every sign, not just the basics. All of them. Jason smiled, that rare smile that completely changed his face. Deal. Mia grabbed both their hands and signed. Can you kiss now? Brooke and Jason laughed at the same time. But before either could answer, Andrew shouted from the front, Kiss already. We have dinner after this. The entire crowd laughed and clapped. Jason looked at Brooke, silently asking for permission. She nodded, and he kissed her. Right there, in the middle of the hall, with 300 people watching, and for the first time in months, everything made sense. But while everyone celebrated, no one noticed the reporter in the corner of the room recording everything. Already editing the story that would make Brooke and Jason front-page news across the country. 6 months after the kiss that became national news, Jason Crawford was doing something he never imagined. He was getting married in a coffee shop. And he was absolutely terrified. Bean and Soul had closed for the day, the first time in 15 years, because Brooke Anderson was getting married. And she had chosen that place, the place where it all began. Marcus was up on a ladder, trying to adjust the new sign above the door. The letters glowed softly in neon. Signs of soul where love speaks every language. Nora shouted from below, It's crooked. It's not. It is. The S is higher. Marcus climbed down, exasperated. Then you go up. I'm wearing heels. And I'm afraid of heights. Andrew showed up with a beer in hand. Do you want me to climb? They both looked at him. You're drunk, Andrew. Slightly, but still functional. Nora snatched the beer from his hand. No one climbs drunk. Marcus, fix the sign. I'm going to check if the bride isn't having a meltdown. She went upstairs where Brooke was getting ready. Brooke stood in front of the mirror, wearing a simple white dress. No veil, no drama, Just her in a dress that cost $300 at a department store. Nora entered and froze. Wow, you look beautiful. Brooke turned. Really? It's not too simple? Simple? Brooke, you're getting married in a coffee shop. Simple is perfect. Brooke let out a nervous laugh. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I mean, we already decided. It's done. But my stomach's running a marathon. That's normal. Nora adjusted her hair. You're about to marry a billionaire who once mixed up go and bathroom. Nerves are justified. Brooke burst out laughing. Stop, you'll ruin my makeup. Sorry, but it's true. Nora took her hands. But seriously, are you sure? Brooke didn't hesitate. Absolutely. Then let's go. Your future husband is about to have a heart attack downstairs. Jason was downstairs trying to fix his tie for the 10th time. He wore a gray suit, simple, understated. David appeared beside him. Man, stop touching the tie. It's perfect. It's crooked. It's not. You're just nervous. Jason exhaled. What if I forget what to say? You won't. What if I trip? You won't. What if she changes her mind? David placed a hand on his shoulder. Jason, she chose you. After everything, after you messed up twice, she still chose you. He smiled. Now breathe. And go marry the love of your life. Jason nodded, trying to believe it. That's when Mia appeared. She wore a light pink dress and carried a small pillow with 2 wedding rings on top. She signed to her dad, Are you ready? Jason crouched and signed back, I'm terrified. Mia smiled and signed. She is too. Jason almost laughed, but he was too busy trying not to cry. The ceremony was small, 50 people. Friends, family, and a few regular customers Brooke insisted on inviting. Her father, Robert Anderson, sat in the front row. Proud, emotional, still processing the fact that his daughter had secretly dated a CEO for 6 months and only told him when she sent the wedding invitation. Andrew was the best man, Nora the maid of honor, and Mia carried the rings. The music began, a simple tune on guitar, played live by Marcus, who had revealed at the last minute that he knew how to play. Brooke walked down the stairs, and when Jason saw her, everything stopped. She was simply perfect. Perfect for him. She walked toward him slowly, smiling. When she reached him, he whispered, Hi. She whispered back, Hi. The officiant cleared his throat. Shall we begin? They both laughed. The ceremony was short. No fuss. The officiant spoke about love, trust, and second chances. When it was time for the vows, Jason took a deep breath. Brooke, I've spent my whole life trying to control everything. Planning, calculating, and then you showed up, with that crooked apron and that smile that could stop any board meeting. The audience laughed. You taught me that sometimes the best things in life don't come with a signed contract. They come with a spilled milkshake and mixed up signs. He held her hand. And I promised to spend the rest of my life learning, making mistakes, but always trusting. Because you deserve that, and I finally understand. Brooke wiped her tears. Then it was her turn. Jason, when I met you, you were the most uptight guy I'd ever seen. Like someone who needed a password just to smile. Laughter filled the room. But then I saw you with Mia. I saw you try. I saw you fail and keep trying. And I realized you weren't uptight, you were just scared. She squeezed his hand. And so was I. Afraid of not being accepted, of not being enough. But you showed me that I always was, since the very first milkshake. She smiled. Guess the espresso finally handled the pressure. The crowd burst into laughter and applause. Andrew shouted, That was a good one. The officiant smiled. Jason Crawford, do you take Brooke Anderson to be your wife? Jason looked into her eyes, the same eyes that had seen him at his worst and still chose to stay. I do. Brooke Anderson, do you take Jason Crawford to be your husband? Brooke held his face in both hands. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Washington, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Jason pulled her close. Brooke smiled, and they kissed. The whole cafe cheered. Mia jumped. Andrew whistled. Nora cried. And Marcus almost dropped his guitar. When they pulled apart, Jason signed to Mia, Thank you for not giving up on me. Mia ran to hug them both, and the three stood there, in the middle of Bean and Soul, where everything had started with a milkshake and a sign of hope. Hours later, after everyone had gone, Jason and Brooke stayed behind, sitting at the same table where they'd first met. Brooke rested her head on his shoulder. We did it. We did. Got married in a coffee shop. Couldn't have chosen a better place. She laughed. Your executives must think we're crazy. Definitely. But Andrew's already planning his wedding here too. Brooke looked up. Really? I swear. He said if it worked for us, it'll work for him. They both laughed. Jason looked up at the new sign, signs of soul glowing against the Seattle night. It's perfect. It is. Brooke intertwined her fingers with his. Just like us. Jason turned and signed, I love you. Brooke smiled and signed back, I love you too, even when you mix up words. He laughed. She laughed. And outside, Marcus snapped a photo of them. Because that story deserved to be remembered. The story of a supposed waitress who made a little girl laugh, of a CEO who learned to listen, and of a love that spoke every language, especially the most important one, the language of the heart. And that's how the story of Brooke, Mia, and Jason ends. Of a waitress who hid a secret. Of a CEO who needed to learn to trust, and of a girl who just wanted to be heard. What did you think of Jason's transformation? Did he deserve Brooke's forgiveness after doubting her twice? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. We love reading what you think. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Did you laugh when Jason mixed up go and bathroom? And did you cry at the end when they got married in the cafe? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more touching stories like this one. We have many more incredible tales of romance, drama, and unexpected twists waiting for you. See you next time. And remember, sometimes love begins with a spilled milkshake and a sign of hope. See you in the next story.